it's never been cooler to be a Celt. Wherever you go these days, it seems that everyone wants a little bit of Ireland. In an increasingly homogenised, standardised world, Ireland still seems to represent romance, beauty, a good time, authenticity, and of course, mysticism, especially for me. Like millions of other people who've never actually lived there, Ireland makes me feel like I belong. Perhaps it's the earth speaking to us. Well, it's just a thought.
I'm a true-born Irishman. Oh, they call me Conor Dunn. I was bred and born in Ireland, you must know. Or someday I'll go back just to visit that old shack. It's the cottage with the horseshoe o'er the door.
If there is such a thing as genetic memory, and for the moment I can't remember whether there is or not, then perhaps having an Irish mother explains why this country seems so familiar.
Now here's what I'm wondering. If your passport says one thing but your heart's telling you another, then which is speaking the truth? Is it possible that in some genuine way I really spiritually belong here, or am I just a sentimental fool?
I came here first in 1961 with my wife, and I said to her, I'm going to live here. And she looked at me and she said, I'm not going to live here. I don't want to live here. And 8 years later, I came to live here. I left my family to come here because I couldn't not. There was something so deep inside me that said, I've got to live in the west of Ireland.
So in the divorce, the west of Ireland was cited?
Well, just about. I think that's a fair comment. Ireland is a very jealous lover. And if you leave the west of Ireland, if it's really in your heart, and you leave it, it's like being attached to a piece of elastic. You know, after a month or two, it starts stretching, and it starts twanging, and you're pulled back. And it doesn't matter whether you've got an English accent or not. If it's in the heart, you've had it.
Talk of the earth as a living organism seems to come quite naturally in Ireland. If Michael Poinder can convince me that the earth's alive, perhaps I'll believe I might be related to it.
I love these stones. I see these stones in lots of places, but I don't really know what they were for. I mean, we're all tooled up with our Neolithic surveying equipment here.
That's right. Well, first of all, I'll explain these things that I've got in my hand here, shall I?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Because one thing we learn about our ancient civilization, and we're learning it again today, is that all these ancient structures were always sited, Stone Age and Bronze Age, always sited over water lines or water conjunctions. That means underground water flowing in the earth, the blood of the earth flowing like veins in our body. And I'm going to ask you to try and find it. I'll put the markers in for you. That's it, nice and steady now. Think water in the earth, because that's what you're trying to find. Right, so beginning to shiver, there they go. Just about to part.
Whoa!
Hey, there you go. Okay, we're putting one in here.
Honest, it's for real.
There you go. So now you see we're beginning to get a line.
Yeah.
So do you want to do another one?
I want to do it all week. I don't just want to do another one.
My dowsing debut seemed to establish two lines. One led to the ruins of a 6th century oratory, the other to a grove of trees. The place is believed to be an unconsecrated graveyard, a burial place for unbaptized children.
And it's all linked with that standing stone. It's like an acupressure point. It's like an acupuncture point of the earth. When you have a cross of energy underground, the energy then forms into a circle. The energy field forms into a circle. And here we have that circle engraved on the stone here. One here.
Get in.
Am I going too fast?
Well, just a bit. No, it's all right. You carry on.
One here.
I've not seen sticks like these since the Christian Brothers used to hit me with them.
Well, I used to have the same problem at public school. I'm just following this circle, you see. Another one behind me here.
Well, I'm just following you.
And there you see the circle of energy, the unseen circle of energy, is emanating from the underground watercross.
Well, something made my rods point out the lines, and in the absence of a scientific explanation, unseen energy seems a reasonable catch-all term. There's also much talk of energy emanating from the Aran island of Inishmore, where I'm told there's a rebellious community of Catholic priests with pagan beliefs. I have fantasies of Craggy Island and Father Ted, but the reality is Father Darragh Malloy.
Why did you choose to be here? Is there a spiritual history to the island?
Oh, yes. This has been a holy island for thousands of years. There's monasteries everywhere on it. There's holy places everywhere. I mean, I am a priest and I'm a member of a religious order, but the church was far too structured and bureaucratic for me. I was being suffocated. And to come out here, it was like the camera coming into focus. I just saw everything clearly about my life. This is where I must be. I must live like the Celtic monks lived here for thousands of years. In the early days of the Irish Church, of the Irish Christian Church, it took on wholesale all this older spirituality, if you like to call it pagan. I call it Celtic because pagan is a sort of dismissive term for us Irish people anyway. To say something is pagan means to give it no respect.
That's right.
Whereas, in fact, it's our Old Testament. In other words, we should give it a huge amount of respect because it's the gathering of the people's wisdom. And the Roman Church, which we now have, is a total imposition. And it's this notion that our Irish Church, when it had an indigenous expression, when we had our local culture built into it and our own landscape built into it, that it was a very vibrant and alive thing and a very nourishing thing for people. But once people begin to realise that that was in fact the truth and that it would match sort of the longing that's still in people in this country for some type of spirituality, this would be a creative way forward rather than just walking away from the church, to actually begin to be creative about it and to put together something from the ground up. For example, if we do a round of the wells here, the people will be walking around it in a sunwise direction, or in Irish it's called Turas Deishil, a journey to the right. And they're going to be walking around the well 7 times with 7 stones in their hand, and each time they pass a point, they'll drop one of the stones. And they'll be saying prayers as they go round. And that's a very ancient tradition that goes back before Christianity, to the time when wells were regarded as sacred places. They were a feminine point, which was a sort of an entrance into the womb of the earth. And doing the round of it was imitating the sun around the earth. So you're harmonizing your life with the cosmic rhythms.
It's a long way from doing what the Pope tells you to do.
For myself, the gospel is that the Holy Spirit was given to all of us. And if you like, that means that control comes from below. And what the people are nourished by is what's right. And if we're nourished by going around a well, that's what's right. And it doesn't matter what the Pope says.
Intrigued by this talk of sacred wells, I headed back to the mainland and the natural wilderness known as the Burren to search for St Colman's Well in the company of author and philosopher John Moriarty.
This isn't really the soft landscape that we associate with Ireland.
No, quite suddenly we have come into desert. These are the old, it's almost like a Judean desert, a biblical desert, and it is into these deserts that people came seeking encounter with God, because if the bush is to burn, and if God is to talk out of the burning bush to you, it is probably in places like this that it will happen. The gods might have left the great religions and have grown very tired in the great religions, and where else would the gods go in a world of engines and machines, but into places like this, where you don't hear the sound of an engine, where the landscape isn't dominated by human activity.
It is real desert imagery, isn't it? It's a hardy tree growing in an oasis. Oh wow. There's a rosary beads hanging down there, almost as if they're growing. And I suppose I was expecting something more pagan.
Well, the whole thing is pagan, but it is Christian also. It is both. St. Patrick blessed the wells. So Christians would also come here looking for favours from the divine and leave an icon of the Virgin or an icon of the Christ or a rosary beads behind.
It's intriguing because it's taken us hours to find the place. It's not marked on the map. There are no signs on the road. It's a hell of a walk to get here, but obviously other people are coming here. But you see,
this earth here, a native North American Indian would say it's big medicine. I mean, we have come to a well that is big medicine. The earth isn't just an economic proposition of New York lawyers buying and selling land they never stood on or they never crossed into. I mean, the earth is big medicine.
There'll be a lot of people who hear us talking and say, well, you know, they're talking about superstitions. We grew out of that stuff in the Dark Ages. We're more enlightened now. What do you say to people?
The European Enlightenment ended in the mud of Flanders. The European Enlightenment was a catastrophe. Our Enlightenment has walked us into 2 world wars. We are now the rational beings that we are. We are now AIDS virus to the earth. We are doing to the earth what the AIDS virus does to the human body. We are breaking down the immune system of the earth. Why put a ruler to this? Why measure and quantify this? This is immeasurable and unquantifiable. The universe isn't quantity and it isn't measure. It is most marvelously infinite. To see a world in a grain of sand and heaven and wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. I mean, allow yourself to be romantic. Be a Dylan Thomas, like, you know, sing your song under milk wood. If your milk wood is below where your mother came from, that's your milk wood. Sing your under milk wood song.
So there you have it. Abroad is home, Catholic is pagan, and poetry is prose. I love the contradictions of Ireland, like warm sun on cold stone.
And I like that positive attitude, the way no one wants to tell you no. When I was driving around with John Moriarty, we stopped to ask directions of this old country boy, and we said, we're looking for St Coleman's Well. And he said, ah, yes. And we said, do you know it? He said, sure, I do. So we said, could you tell us how to get there? And he took a long pause and said, what country's it in?
Contact details for the religions and beliefs featured in this programme and the last series of Desperately Seeking Something can be found on a special Channel 4 poster. To order, call 0897 188 177 and the price, £2, will be added to your phone bill.
Next week, in the last programme of the series, the unacceptable face of the occult, or just a bit of harmless fun in the woods. Chaos magic.
Walk the labyrinth. Deep in the labyrinth. Now you're in the labyrinth. You're in the labyrinth. Again.